has to be debated. So that's disputed until it's resolved.
All right, councillors, we have we're casting live. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to open our extraordinary meeting of council, Thursday the 8th of May 2025. A reminder for all of us that this meeting is being webcast, and a reminder to those in attendance that you should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Councillors, if we could rise for the acknowledgement of country and the prayer. I would like to acknowledge that Yass Valley Council recognises the Ngunnawal people, the traditional custodians of the land, water and sky. We pay our respect to their elders past, present and future emerging leaders. We extend our respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who live in the Yass Valley local government area. Now the prayer. Councillors, as we commence our meeting, please join me in the prayer or take this moment to personally reflect. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon this council, direct and prosper our deliberations to the true welfare of Australia and the people of Yass Valley. Amen. Councillors, we now need to bring Councillor Carter into the meeting. I've done that first. Councillors, I need a mover and a seconder to bring Councillor Carter in. Thank you, Councillor Charry. Thank you, Councillor Rothwell. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you for joining us, Councillor Carter. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, our first item is 4.1, the Council Sporting Facilities User Charges Review. Councillor Butler.
I'd just like to announce a non-pecuniary.
Oh, sorry, that is my mistake. Sorry, I should have called for declarations of pecuniary interest and special disclosures. Thank you, Councillor Butler. What item?
So mine will be a non-pecuniary less than significant interest in item 4.1. I was the 2019 founder of Murrumbidgee Middle Athletics. I do not hold an executive committee position at the moment, however I'm heavily involved in the weekly running and hold a general committee. I will stay in the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Any other declarations? Thank you, councillors. Back to 4.1, thank you. So we have a recommendation before us. Councillors, do we have a motion?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move the recommendation as it stands, and I would like to call for a seconder.
Okay, Councillor Butler and Councillor McGrath. Councillor Butler, just in future, once you rise and say that you'd like to move a motion, just wait for the chair to say, Councillor, you have the floor. Okay.
Understood.
Okay, thank you. So the recommendation before us is as it stands, is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, if possible, I would like to add a point 3 to the recommendation.
Councillor Flannery, I see that you're on your feet. Do you have a procedural motion?
Yes, I would like to move an alternative motion, so I'm just not quite sure the process of doing it.
Okay, so Councillor Butler was very fast on her feet and has put a motion. So once we have
I've got a broken leg, so it's a bit hard to jump to my feet.
I do apologise, I wasn't aware.
And I had my hand up.
If you could actually inform me that you prior, I will know that there is a reason why you can't abide by the general rules. In fact, if you would like to proceed for the rest of this meeting without the need to rise, that would be perfectly acceptable to the chair.
I can rise, it's just I can't do it quickly, but I did have my hand in the air. I had approached the CEO about the
Councillor Flannery, I note your comments. I did say to councillors before we started that I was aware of at least 3 alternate motions that could be put. So Councillor Butler now has the floor, and we have a seconder, so we'll proceed with the debate.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. Is it possible to add the point 3?
Yes, we're just realising there's something that's not there.
I'll read.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yes, please.
So I'd like to add 3, that during the 28-day public exhibition period, that the CEO ensures that council officers engage with individual sporting groups to ascertain the impacts of the proposed draft fees. Katie, I can send that to you if you need it. That the CEO ensures that council officers engage with individual sporting groups to ascertain the impacts of the proposed draft fees. Can I continue with my debate?
Okay, so we've got the, so if we can just read that out one more time, so.
Ensures that council officers engage with individual sporting groups to ascertain the impacts of the proposed draft fees.
So that's during the 28-day public
That
exhibition
is
period.
correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Thank you, Councillor. Terrific. So that's you've given us the motion. We've ascertained a seconder. Any further comments?
I have a few comments. Number one, I think that first of all, I'd really like to thank our open forum speakers. They really spoke a lot of things. If I was still in the position that I was in a few years back, I would be speaking exactly what they had spoke about tonight. The table, I think, for the general public is, even though it's laid out really well, is a little bit confusing. I found it really confusing. So I think that taking it back to the individual groups and speaking to them on a personal level, if they choose to do so, is really important for us as a community, just so they fully understand exactly why this is being proposed and what kind of impacts, and if there is anything that we can do together with the clubs and council to help out or lessen the burden. I think that's really important. I really hate to see sporting costs increased in any way, shape or form. And I agree that when we had the New South Wales Active Kids Vouchers, it was a lot easier for families to be involved in sport. As a club in Murray Bateman, we were really proud to be able to offer our season for an out-of-pocket cost for about $50 a child for the whole season. And that was fantastic. However, I really understand that that's not the norm across the LGA or in fact in Canberra. So I think as we progress with the community and like the gentleman said in Yass, in Murray Bateman, we've seen huge advances in the infrastructure that we have on our oval and playing fields. It is at almost a competitive level now, and I know that the ACT is looking at actually bringing competitions out to Murray Bateman. So we as a community need to understand that has a cost impact, and we do need to be working together with council to ensure that we have the infrastructure that's suitable for our community, but that we're able to pay for it, and that council doesn't go into the red for us to be able to do it, because then we all lose anyway. Thank you.
If the seconder is amenable, I might just pass on to our CEO to just tell us a little bit about the procedure.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too would also like to thank the two speakers that came here today. It's really lovely to see community that's so engaged to take the time, and also the way in which those messages were delivered. So thank you very much. The review of the fees and structures for sporting facilities, I should say, has been, I think as one of the speakers said, been bandied around for a while. And it is part of our asset management strategy. So council had resolved to or endorsed the asset management strategy, and council staff are implementing that strategy now. In accordance with that, council is proposing roughly a 20% increase. There's many ways to slice and dice around this type of usage and expenses in terms of sporting usage. And the way that has been chosen may need to have more consultation with staff, but it was deemed to be the most, I suppose, appropriate and database driven way to derive the fees, to be able to come up with a estimated annual cost per use. The process is that with the IPNR documents having the draft fees and charges for 25-26 going out on public exhibition, this too goes out on public exhibition because those draft fees are included in that document. what that means is it's part of the legislative process, so the community engagement will now occur. So we've provided some, I suppose, a baseline or a methodology for determining those fees and charges. And from here, we will be holding roadshows within each of the communities, as well as I'm very happy to see the additional 0.3 because that's what council's proposing or would be doing as a matter of course anyway, that we will be going to those individual sporting groups and engaging with them if they choose to take that up, to hear their concerns, and if there's an alternate methodology that is more appropriate, then we're happy to absolutely consider that. That feedback will then come back as part of the IPR suite of documents to the June council meeting, and with an explanation of of the final proposed fees that council chooses to do. So this is a matter of council doing their normal course of business, doing the engagement as per the IPNR legislative framework, which this process now kicks off the engagement. I did want to say that we are trying to be, or we are being extremely transparent with this process by having a separate report which calls out the changes, because we know that this is an impact to those local sporting groups, and we know that this is going to be of concern, not just to the sporting associations, but to every parent and user of those facilities. So we are comfortable in that we're being transparent, having this discussion up front, using the 28-day exhibition process to undertake that engagement and to present back any revision required as part of that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Will the seconder like to speak? Councillors.
Are we speaking against or for?
I'll just alert Councillor Flannery that if she has a foreshadowed motion, now is the opportune time to rise and put the motion, or stay seated. I'm perfectly fine with that. Yeah.
So I have a foreshadowed motion. Katie, I don't know if you could pop that up. I will read it. And whilst I agree with some cost recovery process and community consultation, just while that's coming up, I feel that
it's up there now, so I'm just getting to state what it is.
So that council acknowledges the significant contribution of that volunteers that make up local sporting and recreational clubs, and the importance of maintaining affordable user charges to support continued and increased community participation. Council reaffirms its responsibility to explore alternative methodologies for partial cost recovery, including more collaborative or efficient models. And I think this is where we get some skin in the game. This may include cost reduction measures by council, such as adjustments to servicing. Council staff prepare a revised and more community sensitive methodology informed by consultation with user groups, taking into account the potential impact of increased fees on club viability and affordability on families. And the decision to adopt a new cost recovery model will be deferred until the revised methodology under point 3 is presented for council's consideration at your earliest convenience.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. So now we proceed with.
Do I speak to that at all?
I think all we can do is state what it is.
Do we need a second?
Yes.
No. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I thought foreshadow didn't need it. I beg your pardon. So do we have a seconder for the foreshadow? Okay, thank you. Okay, so Councillor Carter, was that a question? Sorry, just a. Okay, thank you. That's a review. Now we'll go back to the original. So we don't need to debate the foreshadow first, do we?
So we need to discuss the amendment.
Okay, so Councillor Flannery, I just want to be certain, you're not trying to amend Councillor Butler's motion, it's a standalone foreshadowed motion that you're looking at here.
Madam Mayor, I think
It's
it
up
would
to
be
the councillors to
time
determine whether or not we can incorporate some variations in the motion that's already on the floor, and if that's acceptable to the mover, then it's incorporated. If that doesn't occur, then we proceed under discussion of the foreshadowed motion.
So just as a point of clarification, they're similar, because both want to bring in the public exhibition, and there's timing on that under point 3 in motion 1. but in the original motion specifies a level, and the amended motion, I should say, is around going back to the clubs and looking at how that affects them and when.
So can I clarify that, does your motion do this in the 28-day exhibition period? So does yours put it on exhibition as is?
No, mine could be amended further to put it says at earliest convenience, so it could say during the 28-day exhibition notice. See what I'm saying?
Decision to adopt a new cost
It
recovery
needs to be
model.
reflected in the motion.
So we could amend point 4 of the amended motion as opposed to is presented to council following its 28-day public exhibition period.
Is the seconder amenable to that change? Councillors, I'll just take some advice from our CEO as to whether points 1 to 4 in the foreshadowed motion can actually be achieved in the timeline that we have? Or is this,
Yep, so the first
if we have
document is just
capacity to do it?
is an acknowledgement. The second one, council reaffirms its responsibility to explore alternative methodologies for partial cost recovery, including, yep, so I guess yes, we absolutely can explore and leading on from our public speakers around whether the hours are correct and the usage levels are correct, so yes, we can do that. We can talk to the sporting groups about would they prefer a potential reduction in service levels as opposed to an increased fee, which then would still meet that asset management requirement, so number 2 I'm okay with. Number 3, that council staff prepare a revised and more community sensitive methodology and form council staff to prepare I guess I'm informed, so if you say council prepare fees and charges based on or taking into account the consultation?
It's basically taking into account the
Okay,
consultation.
so if we could just say taking
Something
into
that
account
reflects the consultation and
Yeah.
impact.
or in consideration of the consultation, that's fine.
One of our speakers today mentioned the timing, and I know
Yep.
that was brought up in the briefing. I was concerned about the timing that this was introduced.
Sure. Okay, so yeah, if we could modify that to something like in consideration of the consultation outcomes, and that's okay. And the last one, the item 4, if we could have the public exhibition process that we'll engage through that would meet our needs as well. What would be ideal and is that this gets adopted with the IPNR documents on the 23rd of June. That enables all fees and charges to be implemented on the 1st of July. Taking into account what one of our speakers said, it might be staged depending on when the season is or whatever, depending on the consultation. But it can be published within the document.
May I make a recommendation? Is it possible for us to go to committee of the whole for council to discuss this? Because clearly the intent here is quite similar, but I think there's something that we could gel here because the intent from both movers is quite.
Councillor Charing, moving this into a committee of the whole, seconded by Councillor Cameron. Councillors, I'll set a time limit of 10 minutes for our committee of the whole. And this might actually become a lot more productive. Okay, so I think I'm very keen for the OLG to see us moving forward to mature our accounting and our fees and charges to what our peer councils are doing around the region. I think it's very clear that we need to be shown that we've got pace on that issue, while balancing our community stewardship over our community assets. So if we can get this out of public exhibition in its current format, we'll be, I think, ticking off what the OLG needs to see us doing while nuancing what clearly needs a bit of refining with that data bank. It doesn't seem like they've quite got it as to what they're actually using. And or maybe they are using it and it's not getting recorded in our system correctly, or there's something there that I think we need to work on clearly. Councillors, to create a motion that has, I think, the spirit of both, do you want to start with Councillor Butler's, which clearly puts the documents out and gives us some pace? We're acknowledging they're not perfect by what Councillor Flannery has put in here about if we can just we can go back to the foreshadow motion, about exploring the alternative methodologies for partial cost recovery. So does that satisfy what you want to do in terms of going back and sitting down with groups?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, it does and it doesn't, so I'm sorry to be a bit hung up
That's okay,
by
let's
this
get it right.
one. I believe that the methodology that's used is an accounting one. I think our new CEO mentioned accounting, and it's data driven, some of that data is not correct, so we've kind of recognised that. But it also doesn't take into account the value that sport provides to our community and our kids, and also the economic benefits. So we might have a festival in Yass that wants a grant of a certain amount for Yass, but these sporting groups bring in people week on week. And although, they might run their own canteens, which might mean that people go into the main street, but I see after football and cricket, all our cafes packed with people. And so, and the other side of the coin is, I want council to have skin in the game, by which I mean, there is what I cannot find, and we'll get to the next document, in service level agreements. And if I can understand what the cost of that servicing is. So you're asking a community and community groups and volunteers to pay more, but you're not telling them where the costs are. And in terms of how many times it's known, how many times it's been picked, how many times the toilets are cleaned.
It's in the table, in terms of the cost.
Total cost is,
Yeah.
but how that might be reduced, which is if we did one, there's no automated watering system, but if you looked out the window and it was raining and the water was turned off, how much would that save? So I'm just saying, I feel as a community group, I can understand that the IPNR wants all to reduce, to have a more managed financial situation, but to these communities and to some people, some families, $20 extra is a lot of money. And I think we as a council should also try to reduce our costs, even if we're saying 5% less cost on all of these, it means it's a 15% increase to some, and we still make our 20%. I think there's more open ways. I know you might think, gosh, that's going to take a time, but I don't think it is really.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Flannery. Do you have any more speakers?
I would be committee of the whole now.
Yes, we are.
Can I just say, I fundamentally agree with the proposal in the recommendation that Councillor Butler moved. However, I fundamentally disagree with the methodology because I feel that we can't see this as purely as a transaction. I've been looking at these numbers and I must say I have been involved with quite a number of these sporting organisations, and we've heard tonight from Mr. Collins and Mr. Clayton, in particular the comments that were made about, look, their clubs, two of the major clubs here in Yass, so they're happy to pay an additional cost, and they expect to do so. And as Councillor Flannery has already mentioned there, if we're going to increase costs, there needs to be a value proposition to the clubs. If we're going to pay more money, what are we actually committing to giving back to the community in that aspect? But I guess the piece that I'm really stuck on is the recovery rate of 20%, where you interrogate individual clubs, and some of them, and I use the Yass Magpies in particular, they're looking at the Yass Touch Football Club, they're essentially looking to double their rates right now, and we haven't really even had those discussions, and I admit that the 28-day period will give us that input, but I feel that there are better ways to tackle this problem, and there are more, for lack of a better term, more inclusive methods to apply a better costing model back to the community. Because if we were to approach every single club that is listed on this table, they could come up with their own innovative ways to approach us to say, look, you have got a service level there that we could potentially assist you with. So therefore, that's not a liability that you need to incur. We may be able to take that on. That's something that, you know, I was able to, you know, just purely just thinking on the spot. But I guess we haven't had those discussions yet. We commit to doing so, but the 20% recovery rate is inaccurate, and we shouldn't look at it purely as a transaction. We owe it back to the community, bring them into the tent to let them know how we're tackling this problem. Yes, we need to go back to the LG and demonstrate that particular intent to do so, but there's a better way to do this. And I feel we wouldn't be representing our community properly if we didn't have those discussions and have those, I guess, willingness to review the intent that we're actually trying to achieve. Thank you.
Councillors, any other speakers?
I just wondered how long the document's been around. Did I get the impression that this sort of concept document's been around for a couple of years?
2022, I think is when we've been talking about it for longer than that, but I think 2022 is when we first started those discussions, and I think that's when the league started taking on a little bit of the line working. So they do line marking. So we do the first one and then they do the rest for the season. So a lot of those kinds of in-kind attempts have already been made. I think
Across the board though?
probably not,
Yeah.
but that was one that was Walker Park. So to give you an example, the annual cost is 143,000, and we're trying to recoup 20%, which is the 28,747. I mean, that's not, we're not trying to go for 100% here. I agree that I think we need to interrogate the data a bit better. I think we get right out of town if we try to go for the 100%. And I think what Councillor Flannery is saying, that we need to acknowledge a better matrix to show the economic development that comes from sport. And I think we all agree, because when we do have to go over to Canberra with our sporting groups, I need to do it with soccer, I'm sure others need to do it with footy, you end up spending money there. So I know firsthand the economic benefit of keeping our sport healthy and viable. I'm worried that we need to have some pace on this and to do the kind of matrix that might be required. I think we might have to lower our expectations just a little. I don't think we can do the differentiation to the nth degree on how many have got seniors, how many are all juniors. This is a cost bucket of under 100,000, and we've got a small rural council team. But I think if we were to tighten up what that matrix is for the data on how many hours they use, I think that's a win for this year. And if we can get some further improvements for the next time we look at the user charges and keep moving forward and keep improving, I think that's an acceptable win for this meeting, to get it out on public exhibition, acknowledge it's not great or not perfect, and open up those discussions to try and tweak it, because we heard tonight that they understand that paying more is something that needs to happen.
Sorry, for you, Madam Mayor, paying more is something that needs to happen, but with the caveat that some clubs will be impacted and their usage might drop off, so in turn affects our revenue. We still have our fixed costs. So I would still like us to look at our fixed costs and see how we can somehow try to reduce those. And there could be a number of ways. I'm not suggesting them at the moment, but I understand the point of getting information out, of trying to have a framework to work in. The first thing I'd like to do is go back to the community sporting groups who use them and ask them how this is going to impact them and what we might be able to do. And I don't want a level of 20% in that we say it has to be 20%, because some clubs, and I'm just going to use cricket, they use the sporting field all day. I think from my memory of it, they look to double or something like that their fees, if not more, compared to a 50 or an 80-minute game of football. Like you don't want to shorten a game of cricket to 80 minutes. to some sports, and they also use the ovals when there's not many other, it's not a competitive time, they might only have 1 or 2 cricket teams, whereas they might have 6 football teams. So I do think some nuancing is needed around impact and things, and it shouldn't be, if it's been around for a while, surely some people have come up with some ideas. So what I'm recommending is that we go back and have a look and say, is there peak season, is there impact, is there viability, and is the economic benefit there?
Through you, Madam Mayor, may I respond to Councillor Flannery, because I do completely understand what you're saying. I just also think that if you were to go back and ask each individual club to come up with that data, they also maybe don't have that data. So then they're going to go back to the drawing board and have to go through all of they might not even have any data to be able to prove what kind of impact that would have if it's not actually being impacted on them per se. Going from the active kids vouchers, as a club in Murrum Bateman, we thought that would drop off quite a lot, and instead we saw almost a 20% increase in our participants. So it's not always a case of, this happens, this is how it impacts, because we don't know what we don't know. So asking them to tell us that, they might not have the data either.
I do understand what you're saying. I don't have to sit down.
You don't understand.
No.
I do understand what you're saying, but let's give them a shot at it. Like, most of the clubs should come up with something, and if they don't, I mean, many of the clubs have been, the people that run the clubs have been around for a while, and they should have some understanding of how many hours that they use. I mean, I'm a runner, I would know how many hours almost exactly that we use an oval.
Councillors, a way forward to simplify this, if we go out for public exhibition for what we've got with a commitment to review the data and review the service levels in consultation with our user groups, I think that will take the body of what you want and actually meet what we need to do in our IPNR documents, which we're about to adopt, because we've really got to get these out. And they've got the range, what is it, up to
15 to 30% is written in their asset management strategy. So staff have been the actions they've taken is the implementation of that strategy. But we can certainly look at that within that range.
So if we were to take from Councillor Flannery's the commitment to review the data, review the service levels in consultation with the user groups, and smash that into the back of your motion, Councillor Butler, I think we might be able to get this out in a timely fashion whilst walking and chewing gum commit to reviewing this.
No, and just clarification, as long as the 20% isn't written onto it, stated, it could just review as long as 20% isn't written onto
So,
it. It may not seem much, but to some clubs it's
yeah, I understand, so Kate, we can move up. So a cost recovery rate within the parameters of the IPNR document. Could I?
It's through you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Flannery, would it be acceptable if we just said that council adopts a cost recovery rate in line with the asset management strategy, and that gives us that 15 to 30%, not locked into the 20%? Yep.
So, Katie, in anticipation, if you could work on this document now, so council adopts a cost recovery rate
In line with, just get rid of keep going, just go in line with the asset management strategy.
Okay, I liked if we can also take from Councillor Flannery's recognising the contribution, can we take number 1? Maybe have that as our last one. And then above that, council reviews the data and the service levels in consultation with the user groups, is that? And I'm just gonna change date to that, so we're pretty close. So. So this is going to be our recommendation to open council when we go back in. I'll need a mover and a seconder to bring this recommendation to our council meeting after our committee of the whole. So moved by councillor Flannery, seconded by councillor.
Do I need to accept the amendment?
So this is a recommendation from the committee of the whole to go up into the council, and you can vote against it in the council meeting if you wish. But this is to get it into the council meeting from the committee.
Second.
Are you happy to second?
Second.
Second.
We've already got the motion, it's got to be folded. The original motion, the original motion. Sorry, which one?
Well, it's moved and seconded, that's done,
Okay, correct. So once we move out, the mover and the second of the original motion might like to amend theirs to look like what we have from the committee of the whole.
They accept this.
Okay, got it, all right, we've got a plan. All right, councillors, councillor Carter, just wanted to make sure I touch base with you before we go out of committee of the whole. Fantastic. All right, can I have a mover and a seconder to bring us out of committee of the whole, please? So, was councillor Cherry, seconded by councillor Burgess. Oh, sorry, did I need to vote on that item in committee of the whole first? Is the recommendation?
No, because you resolved it to go into committee of the whole, that's no standing, just.
Yep. Okay, fantastic.
Okay. Have a motion on the floor, just to deal with if it's, with the mover and the seconder, happy to incorporate what has been discussed as an alternative, then that becomes the substantive motion.
Okay.
If they don't agree, then an amendment has to be debated, and that, if that's supported, then that becomes the motion.
So councillors Butler and McGrath, the original motion, are you amenable to the recommendation from the committee of the whole to amend your motion to reflect the suggested changes from the committee of the whole?
The recommendation as it reads on the screen, point 1 to 5, is the recommendation that was just created as a committee of the whole. Now, that's correct.
Are you amenable to amend your original motion to reflect that?
As it reads on the board now?
Yep.
Yes.
Councillor McGrath?
Yes.
Fantastic. So councillors, we can now debate the motion as it stands before you on the screen. That has become the motion. Do I have any speakers for or against? Committee of the whole has done its job.
Question, should stand. Who's moving the motion? Is it the original mover, is it seconder?
So the mover and the seconder have accepted the
All right,
amendment
okay.
as processed in the committee of the whole, and we've brought that out as an idea.
Yeah.
And so we are ready to go, councillors. We have
No, I'll speak.
Councillor Cameron.
I'll speak against. Look, I think what we've done with the committee has improved the motion no end. I think 3, 4 and 5 are all valuable, are all quite valuable points of view. I think what I'd like to take exception to is 1 and 2. I keep on looking at 2 and thinking, what does it actually mean? And it took me a long while to figure it out. Maybe I'm very slow, and some people would agree with that. That I'm very slow as a Greens councillor, but
a rare and endangered species.
a rare and endangered species. Not if I can help it, but that's another thing. Look, what 2 is saying is we're saying that, from a revenue point of view, if we have community usage, we're going to get less money. Yeah, so what? You know, there's a whole lot of services that we provide. I'll take the point about roads and bridges. We don't have a users pay for them, do we, in local council? Maybe we should. Back Creek Road, maybe we should have something there in regard to trucks or something, I'm not sure. But what I'm trying to say is, you know, that's what it's saying. And I think, in a sense, it's obvious. I think the problem with one is the mechanism that we're going to use. Now, I raised the point that this has been in play for about 2 or 3 years, and I would have expected that, and it has happened with some organisations, that they have been alerted to the fact that they may have to do more. I'm sort of a bit concerned that we're going to have a cost recovery rate, which will be a percentage, and it will be a percentage by the look of it without any flexibility. And I think there needs to be flexibility. I think, for example, recently we allowed community use of the kitchen in the Memorial Hall for the RSL. Are they paying for that? They're using it. Are they paying for that? No. We took a decision that we would be flexible on that particular point. And I think that was a good decision. But I think we need flexibility. I also think, I don't...
Councillor Cameron, far be it from me to interrupt your debate and just
Well,
noting
you
that,
don't have to.
just noting that you still have 1 more minute on the clock. I have an opportunity to introduce to you some answers if you'd like to pose them as a question to the CEO in terms of the cost recovery method, because you're noting that the user charges for community use are an issue. We have an answer for you if you'd like to couch it as a question to the CEO.
Oh, yes.
There you go.
Councillor Cameron, thank you for bringing this to our attention. Sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees. We're working in it so clearly, and I think number 2 has probably been interpreted differently by you than it has by us. So the intent of, and please, Director of Infrastructure and Director of Planning and Environment, jump in. I believe that number 2 actually is saying that we acknowledge that a true 20%, as in the report, isn't being recovered because we have taken into account the recreational use by the public. So is that correct? That's correct. So we're not actually, this is not proposing a full 20% because we have taken into account the public utilisation as part of that. So I hope that clarifies it. When you were talking about it, I thought, yes, I can see how you've interpreted it differently, but that was the intent of that, of number 2.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. That's good. Okay, so I'm just a little bit concerned with the cost recovery rate. I was talking to somebody who's an ex-councillor who basically thought that Yass in particular was over-serviced in regard to most of the things that were happening with the sporting facilities, mainly because it's close, and the quality of the implication of that was that Yass is looked after reasonably well. I remember walking the dogs up at Walker Park before they died, that, you know, I'd often see lawn mowing there, and I was thinking, you know, are they getting it ready for bowling or something? Lawn bowls. It was very fine. And then on the other hand, when I go out to communities, they're basically saying they don't see the level of service that is even mentioned in this document. So yes, so I have some concerns and I'll vote against that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. If there are no further speakers, I'd just like to acknowledge the thought put into this motion and the collaborative approach as a council. I want to congratulate you. I also want to acknowledge the work of staff bringing this to our attention. It's a brave step forward. It won't be a perfect step, but I think if we keep working in collaboration with our user groups, we'll get there in the end, and it's something that can be a living document and we can keep refining. But we need to ensure that we recoup costs, small and big, as we move forward to financial sustainability. Councillors, I'd now like to put it to a vote. All those in favour? That's everyone except Councillor, oh,
No,
sorry.
no, no.
I saw it, he did put it
Yeah,
up.
I know you want to join us. I know you want to join us. All right, that's all councillors in favour, except one, and Councillor Cameron against. Councillors, on to our next item, 4.2. We have the item to put on public exhibition our integrated planning and reporting documents. There is a recommendation for us. Do I have a mover?
I'm happy to move.
So moved. Councillor Butler.
Yes, I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Butler, if you're amenable, I'd like to allow the CEO to introduce the documents and the process behind them.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. These documents are incredibly voluminous and somewhat of a difficult read, and I fully appreciate that. It should be noted though that these documents are a comprehensive suite of documents. They're more detailed and transparent with measures and accountabilities than previous years have been put forward. A significant amount of work has been done by council staff and particularly the leadership and executive teams. And I would like to thank them for their immense contribution. But I would also like to take special mention to both our CFO, Jason Maguire, and our Director of Corporate and Community, being Peter Gardner. The work that they have put in has been absolutely immense with late nights, early mornings and all weekend. I can attest to that. So thank you very much. I believe that whilst these documents may not be perfect, they are a step change forward for this council. And as I said, provides a lot more accountability in its measures than what we've seen previously. You'll also note that the resolution calls out the financial challenges that we experience at Yass, and that this council is, I suppose, committed to a way forward over the 4-year term of council, and will be undertaking significant measures as included in the resolution, but not limited to those in the resolution, on how to progress forward. And I do take note of Councillor Flannery's points before. The service level or service reviews will be a significant body of work which will look at service levels that council will provide as part of its financial sustainability framework. So councillors, there is a lot to digest in there, and there's a lot to digest for our community too, which we appreciate. They will be subject to your endorsement today. We'll go on public exhibition. Council staff will be undertaking, I think we're planning 5 roadshows across the LGA, and also doing other community engagement measures as well. We encourage all members of our community to make submissions on these documents, and that those submissions will be presented within the June council meeting documentation with council's feedback as to whether a change has occurred or why it has not. So I thank you for your time to be able to speak today, and look forward to hearing the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Melling. With the mover and followed by the seconder, I'd like to speak to the motion.
I have nothing.
Any other comments from councillors? Yes, I know you've got one.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Here comes Mark Tree Road. Thank you.
Mark Tree Bloody disgrace.
Yeah.
I was out there Sunday, I drove the full length of it on Sunday, and it's horrible. Grader was there on Derry Flat Road, and they took it away, they didn't go and grade, that's right. Didn't grade that road. And then I look in here, the gravel sheets, and it needs gravel on it. And it's all gone to down in Wargilla Road and Morby's Lane. I know Morby's Lane needs it badly. And I travel Wargilla Road a lot, it's not too bad. And it's 800,000 there, there's 460,000 on Wargilla Road and 350,000 on Morby's Lane. But I think we should do something with Mark Tree Road.
So can I, while you're on your feet, so not just gravel, but needs to be ripped up, the whole thing?
It's bedrock, there's bedrocks all coming up through, it's all rock, and there's big gutters down the side. Been made like that for weeks.
How many kilometres are we talking?
I think it's 15, I think.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I think it's 15.
And our total program for roads, with Roads to Recovery Fund is 12 kilometres. If you had to,
I know we can't do the lot,
yeah, if we
we
had,
can fix something.
if you had to take a dip in the tar with your thumb, how much would be critical on that 15k that we do in the next 12 months?
At least 6 cases or 7 cases, half of it. At least.
Sorry, I can get any reporting about this, Nathan. In terms of the ability to review, maybe either one of those, can we share the last 3 ways there on those roads?
So through you, Madam Mayor, so there was around $200,000 spent on gravel road sheeting on Back Creek Road last financial year as a result of the petition. Mark Tree Road, sorry, not Back Creek, Mark Tree Road, on the worst sections that were available at the time. These roads come, the proposed roads, so Morley's Lane and Wargilla Road come from our asset crews, our maintenance crews, and out of our asset system as well. So if there's a proposal that you want to change those, then let's do that as part of this 28-day consultation, and we will review that as part of that. But $810,000 split over 600 k's Munsill Road doesn't go very far enough. So yeah, that's as a submission, and we'll review it.
Councillor Flannery.
What I would like injected into the methodology somewhere is a methodology. So I know Mark Tree Road is one because it's obviously, has had lots of complaints, it's been an issue over the side. I read through the papers and I know that they'll have roads that you'll list as needing upgrading. I just don't understand why, and hopefully there's a metric in there somewhere. I know with bitumen and things, you look at, life duration and everything, from my work in Canberra, but with paths and with roads, there should be some way of the community understanding and the council understanding which is first on the list and which is last, and what it takes to get from last to first. Because, I had an inquiry this week from someone in Murray Bateman talking about a lane, and I thought, oh dear, that's going to be really low on the list, but is it? I don't know what the methodology is, so my request is, could we come forward at one of the meetings or prior meetings to understand how the roads team, ascertain the roads, you mentioned that it came from one of the asset crews are reporting that there should be a solid methodology that we can all look at and understand and go, this road is rated worse than that for these reasons, and it could be users or it could be degree of severity of crash or something.
I'll just check in with the CEO, are you happy for the director to continue to answer that question?
Yes, so.
Through you, Madam Mayor, so there's 2 parts to that. So the unsealed road network, we've got a maintenance grading policy in place. So we categorise all our roads graded 1 to 5. And then depending on the hierarchy of that road, it gets graded either 4 times a year or 1 time every 18 months to 2 years. So that's the unsealed road network. For the sealed road network, we've got an asset management system called a SETI. We have a condition rating assessment done every 4 years on our sealed road network. All that data and information goes into that system, and it prints out a list of what our highest priority roads are for either reseals, heavy patching, or rehabilitation if we've got money to do so. Our maintenance crews will then go and fact check that, go and assess those roads and see whether that is correct, and then we'll adjust that accordingly. So there is a whole heap of data and information behind every one of these decisions that's made in this proposal.
That's really good to hear. How does the community know where their roads fit? And, I'm sure different roads decrease at certain times. They might have, people might do rap runs and some might become good and bad. Is there a way that we could annualise, like tell the community annually where their road is sitting, and is it through reports or if it's just a section of?
So through you, Madam Mayor, so again, the unsealed network is under a policy, we can publish which roads are in which category. So most people that live on an unsealed road, they know what category road there is because it tells them how often it gets maintained. This is what our program is for the next 12 months for a resealing and heavy patching program. So we're only putting them out, we only do those sort of every 12 months. And then they get reassessed year by year.
Okay.
It's very
I
hard
still
to
don't know if
publish.
the answer's yes or no.
It's
So
very hard
is
to
there someone
publish.
on the website that I could type in my road and go clickety click, where is my road in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or not considered?
For resealing?
Well,
No,
for
you can't find
upgrades
information
or
on the
something
website.
like that. I'm
You
just
won't
wondering,
find
how do we communicate that to the community so that, you know, I don't, and you don't get email saying this road's in terrible condition. Is there a way that we could better communicate to the community about, hey, we're aware of that, and it's on the list, but it mightn't be this year, or we need, you know, substantial amounts. I'm sorry, I don't understand the asset management policy which goes to these documents, which has a strategy around it, because some roads you might, as I think you do, continuously improve. Other roads, like One Tree Road, you might make sure it's completely bust so people don't use it. I think there must be a strategy behind it. I'm not sure.
So through you, Madam Mayor again, so I don't know of any councils in New South Wales that can publish a program of works further than sort of 1 to 3 years.
So that's all I'm asking,
Yeah,
really.
we can't, we haven't been able to do that.
But further than 3, oh, sorry.
At the moment, we're 1 year.
Yep.
3 years would be, we'd be guessing what we're doing in year 3.
And in between all of that is things like roads to recovery because your roads get smashed.
And the budgets change year by year and yeah, funding sources change. It's very difficult to predict what we're doing this financial year. What we know we're doing this coming financial year, next financial year's up in the air until we condition assess and we have staff out on site.
But I think I hear what Councillor Flannery is saying is that at least if you know what the list is, so if you can see your road in the next 12 months, you know you're on the schedule. If you're not in that list, then it's not happening. So that, I guess that is a way, but you want to know where do you sit, whether you're graded every 2 years, every 1 year, twice a year.
I guess just to use an example of one where a member of the public recently contacted me about a lane at Murrum Bateman, saying there's lots of potholes, blah, 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 it's very dangerous. And I'm like, oh, do I email the Director of Infrastructure, do I raise it? I feel that there should be a better way of public looking and seeing where their road is, and the council having some adaptive strategies to address some of those things, which might be pothole repair as opposed to like a bit of a tiered system, a bit more nuanced.
Councillor Cameron.
Can I just follow up on that? I think the lane that you mentioned is the one that I've raised with.
I think all councillors got the same email.
Yeah.
We're all across it now.
Okay, and we did ascertain it's the lane behind the service station, and we did ascertain that it is our responsibility after a little bit of negotiation. The problem really there is, no matter how bad the road is, it's the only way out, and it's the amount of usage, and that's another factor. Like the road may not be the worst thing you've ever seen. Well, I think it is close. I haven't been to Mark Tree that recently. The thing that I was going to say is hundreds of people would use that every day. And that's the other problem with that one. And I was actually thinking that if you actually did something serious there, you'd have to close it off. Because you couldn't allow people to go in if you're working on it there. You'd have to close it down, which would have an impact on the business as well.
Councillor Cameron, I acknowledge the road you're talking about. I think it's also a high risk area given the fact it's next to a petrol station.
Yes.
So it's something that's on the director's radar.
So
thank you for that.
So just guess I jump off. How do we know it's on a radar? And is that because of usage or a condition, or is there a combined score of both? Because that's what I'm assuming, usage, condition, and that could affect a program so that we're an agile community and it's got shops at Murray Bateman that people use every day, I just want to understand how our asset management plan can respond to that. So,
So through you, Madam Mayor, so this one was more trying to ascertain whether it's council responsibility to maintain or not. So we have worked out now that it's a local road, it's on our road reserve, it is our responsibility to maintain. It's maintenance only, it's not an upgrade, it's not a reseal, it's coming out of our operational budget, not a capital budget.
Councillor Carter, I just want to make sure I haven't missed your opportunity to speak if you would like. Okay. Councillors, do you have any other speakers? As your mayor, I would like to just say a few words. I think we all heard with clarity the message from Mr. Whitworth from the OLG when he visited us in December, and that we need to pull up our position from unsustainable and get back on track fast. I want to congratulate the executive around me for applying the pace that's required to get us there. We need to turn the ship around and we need to do it quickly for our community's sake. I do not want to see any situation where they are lacking in representation because we have not done what we need to do to turn the ship around. And I just want to acknowledge the hard work of the executive for getting these documents ready in an acceptable form which show we are prepared to pull all the levers. Some of those, as set out in the business paper, include undertaking a property portfolio review, improving our systems, processes and capacity and governance around the financial management. And I want to acknowledge Ms. Whitmarsh and Mr. Maguire for their diligence in this area. We are such a long way from where we were November last year. Reviewing and improving our asset management and identifying business improvement. That's only going to happen if the team here, through your guidance, can motivate our staff to look for improvements because they are the ones that do the job and can see a better way to do it. To see another way of doing something more efficiently or to turn something on its head. And so I just want to G up our team here a little bit to say that as a council, we respect the work that's about to happen. It's not going to be easy. It might be quite difficult in terms of restructuring to find the best way to do things and processes. But we don't want to lose any of our team members. We want to see them thrive. Certainly with the new building coming online, I think that's a great opportunity for us to support the team going in to a new era for this council where they will be supported and respected. The cultural review is part of that. And along with the reviewing and improving the asset management, we are going to investigate the need for special rate variation. There is no way around that. It's one of the levers we're expected to look at. But I'm expecting my team here, or our team here, to make sure that we've done those service reviews and had those conversations about what our community expects from us, and have an agreement going forward with our community about what they want us to do, what are their priorities, so we can move forward as a team and deliver on what our community are expecting of us and the Office of Local Government. So that ends my little speech. Thank you, councillors.
May I ask one?
Oh, sorry, yes, councillor.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, one question that was asked at the last meeting
Yes.
was around reviewing interest charges, which in some cases are higher than one might expect to pay. So I'm wondering, as part of our review, what have we progressed in those discussions? And if we haven't, when are we going to do that? May.
May meeting.
Thank you.
We're in May.
Yes.
Councillor Rothwell.
I'd just like to say thank you to you all from the councillors for all the hard work you've done, and top job.
That's all.
All right, I think we're all exhausted. We're ready to move this. All those in favour of the motion before you? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. That concludes our meeting, which is closing at 5:29. And back here